they go up, tend to not come back down. Because they had that on 12 average over the last.
It would get higher.
Well, I didn't realize, I haven't.
So
Higher on the issue.
yeah, I mean, I guess fuel is not, it's not very. It is not including fuel. Fuel's added.
I didn't put on the gas vest, but I stopped.
Which is valuation on your house.
Right, exactly. It's with that.
Is there usually?
Little over $2,000.
Yeah.
So I read through once a minute years. So how you approach this. And there were some years. Yeah.
We got a lot of. We got a lot of.
Rates.
Grandma bunch. LA.
It is 4:00, 4:01. Let's call today's meeting of the Harbor Commission to order. And Victor, would you do a roll call, please?
Jim Bartlett,
Here.
Tom Baker. Here. Kathy Macho. Here. Lisa Nichol.
Here.
Karen Mahalik. Here. Bill McCullough. Here. Bill Brown.
Here.
Chip Everest.
Here.
And Craig Fisher.
Here.
Absent is Karen Stroud. We have Mike Johnson as staff, myself, and Kyle Knight.
Great. We have a quorum. Super. First item on the agenda are approval of the minutes from our August meeting. Anybody have any comments?
The one comment that was made in Karen's note was the same one I had made note of. Page 6, the signature block needs to be changed. Mr. Richards hasn't been here for 6 years, so probably ought to update that as well.
Oh, that's the bylaws.
That's in the
Oh,
bylaws.
I'm sorry, it says bylaw approval. I'm down to old business.
Speedy.
I'll bet it's next a little shorter than normal. The recording, it was muted, so I didn't have a recording to go back to, just my notes. So FYI, that's part of the show.
Any other comments about the minutes?
No.
If not, motion to approve. Thanks, Greg. Second? Second. Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Same for opposed. Thanks, Victor. Pretty good memory. Public comment. Anything from the floor unrelated to what we're going to talk about today?
I'll just give a brief update where we haven't done on the agenda, but I wanted to, so just a sort of brief update of our season so far. Last year, we used 550 hours, we added the extra marine patrol officer. This year, we only used 441 hours, but it was, I feel provided adequate patrol. We had 102 shifts this year, they ranged from 2 hours to 6 hours shifts. Between Larry and Dean, they were out there, I knew quite a bit. Last year, we budgeted $30,000 and used $13,328. This year, we budgeted $20,000 for the wages and we used $11,023, so we're under budget. Hopefully, I just want to get your feedback as well. Just a couple of things that conversation I heard. We did a lot of towings this year, and Mike talked to me the other day. We just seem to be like the tow service of the harbor this year. And one of the concerns is that the liability we take on for those tows. And I'm gonna contact our insurance carrier just to see what their opinion is. We do lockouts, for example, on the road patrol side, different things that open exposed liability for us. And one thing we'll do is we use our body cameras, we get verbal consent, you know, we are gonna do this, and you agree, or do you understand that if we get them your boat, we're not responsible? At least to get it verbally, so that way it's on recording that, because we can't do a written waiver necessarily out in the water because it's a little difficult, you know, their boat's floating away and we're saying, here, can you sign this before we hook onto you? So sort of our stance, or my feeling is, I talked to Dean a little bit, is that we just did a verbal consent on our recorded body cameras, that be that, and as long as we're not negligent, obviously, yeah, somebody can sue us for something if they wanted to, but I still think it's a great service that we provide. I would easily say we had 20 tows this year. And so I just think it's a good reason to have us out there so that people aren't distressed. So that was that. Any concerns about that?
No, but Mike, if I did have a problem out there, who would I be calling? Because the Coast Guard's way down in Charlevoix.
And there's also Cito in Charlotte, but they're at least an hour away.
So I
Be
guess
calling
if he was out there just in the bay, I would call Dean. I mean, or Larry. That's who I
Or
would.
if you don't have a VHF on board, you can
I
call
do
us
have a
at the
VHF,
office.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay,
If you have an issue,
yeah,
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And
I'm just curious, mechanical failures or running out of gas?
mostly mechanical failures. Like, and I'm not out there, but that's what I hear from Dean and Larry.
Yeah, just curious.
Boats breaking down, I'm not a boater, something, that steering disconnecting.
All the calls that we helped with or took phone calls for was all mechanical failures. Dead batteries, unable to start, yeah, but no running out of gas. Or aground on Forest Beach, which happened again
Yeah.
to Gene Mancinelli, so, yeah.
Chief, I think it's a great service also, but I would make sure that our insurance company knows that we're doing this and how we're doing it and get them to sign off on it
Okay,
before we go any further on it, particularly if we're doing a tow off of a beach for the washed up vessel or something unusual, we could get ourselves into trouble.
now we had actually one this weekend because of the wind out here, and I didn't feel our boat was, Dean was in Empire, and there was some pretty significant waves, and I declined that just for that reason. It was not in the harbor, and the fact that we were down an engine for a little bit, and I just want to make sure, and that scares me more. Somebody's out there in the middle of the water and they're having issues, I want to get them off the water, but if somebody that's stuck up against the shore, it's not gonna go anywhere. Is that?
Yeah, I would make sure you tell the insurance company what you're doing, your routine stuff and the more significant stuff. Because it could be that the city has no protection for that, and that could really get us in trouble. Not us, but
Yeah, me in trouble. And then just a couple, the bolt, we had one of the, it was a ECM one out on one of the engines, so we had to replace that. That was like $5,900. I talked to Dean, talked to Nikki at Wallstrom's, we talked about it at length. What should we do? I think the boat is roughly 12 years old or something like that. And I've talked to Victor, maybe in the next 10, 15 years, we put in a capital improvement plan to possibly look at another boat, just because I know the tubes are deflating more quickly. And so just not immediately, but down the road, I'll be long gone, but I don't want to stick whoever takes it out. So.
doing foreshadowing here.
You're talking to me. And then Larry indicated to me that he's gonna want to cut his hours down a little bit next summer, so I might be looking for another person. He still wants to work like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, but he's retired and he wants to like sort of enjoy his retirement. And he was working on the weekends a little bit, so just if you hear anybody that's out there that wants to pick up, some shifts, send them my way. Any other questions?
Yeah, how many tickets did we write out there this summer?
This summer,
Is that the right number?
none?
it's, we do.
Sure.
We could, I take that back, we might have had a crash, we were old. But our, sort of my philosophy is education enforcement. And so, and Dean and Larry both know that, and it seems like our education is working, but I'm not out there. And if you feel that we need to be, or somebody, the commission feels that we need to be a little more stiff, we can do that.
Just asking, I don't know.
Yeah, that's where we.
I was out there and my registration was expired, so I'm kind of glad.
No, Dean's done it a long time.
Yeah.
And we talked about it, and he's always felt like if he can educate people and they comply, then that's fine. And if he needs to take enforcement action, he will. So I hope if you, we work for you guys. So if you ever think that that needs to change a little bit, we can change it.
I just would like that the young people, if we give them a warning, they're supposed to have a voter card or a driver's license. And we can give them a warning, but if we catch them again and they're on a jet ski or in a little whaler or whatever, I'd like them to get a ticket. I mean, we can give them a warning and say, do you know, maybe you're not from Michigan. You're supposed to have a voter card. There's a class you take. But then, yeah,
Well, they do keep, Dean and Larry both keep law.
yeah, yeah.
And they like it, they know the information, they're really good about it, so.
Yeah.
Another funny story that I have a friend that's an undersheriff in Clinton County where I came from, and he came out with two jet skis, took off from the marina and got out in no way, was only going too fast. Dean stopped him for that. And, it was pretty funny, and then he gets back on and he didn't buy a launch permit, so he got a ticket for that. He said, what are you guys doing?
Oh, we're good.
But I'm always available if you have any questions or concerns. You can, if not here, hit me up over there.
From what I saw in the water, the police guys did a pretty good job. They were out, it's good to have them out there. I would hate to see us step back in hours again next year like this.
I want to go forward. It was a little bit of weather, and the one thing I'll say in the hours that Dean and Larry, I feel they did a better job this year. If they're out there and it turns cloudy and there's not boats out, they're not just gonna drive around to get the hours in. They both like their time off. And so if they're out there and you see the weather's, and there's like 2 boats out there or no boats out there, they'll call me and say, hey, can I cut out? And I'm like, I don't want to waste your money or the city's money, but that's why the hours are available. But we will not be.
And they've also done the opposite too, when it's been, you know,
Oh, yeah.
if it gets sunny again, I've seen Larry get back out there. Which is
And yeah, or if like this time of year too, if it gets nice, not necessarily now, but let's say the end of September when they cut off, they'll go back out there, especially in the weekends. Thank you.
Well, thank you. On old business, in your packet are 2 copies of the bylaws. One of them- Oh, I'm sorry.
Just something that's not on the agenda necessarily. I was trying to figure out what needs to happen, if I need to make another proposal or stuff to rescind the requirement that the Wallstrom's dock and dredge be required to lower their crane every night. That's a lot of excessive wear and tear on their equipment. You know, why should they have to go to that unnecessary hardship, waste of time, expense, wear and tear on their equipment, just because someone's focus is on the wrong thing, which is the crane, as opposed to the beautiful view that's in our harbor. Instead of all the beauty that surrounds it, most people don't even notice the crane, because it's an integral part of the water. It's just part of the natural landscape. And to me, the beauty of Harbor Springs. I was gonna get Victor some shots of just looking at the character of that crane when it's working, just on the landscape, on the horizon. It seems like a vanity point to me, and I don't think that those guys should be saddled with the expense that somebody's staring at the crane. I mean, there's, you know, it's 98% air, and there's plenty of view there. If you don't like it, don't look at it. You know, it's not that tough. Been there our whole lives. It's part of this waterfront we wouldn't have without the barge and the crane. And I don't understand why. This doesn't seem like a viable problem to require them to do this to their equipment and stuff. There's a lot that goes into lowering that crane every night, as far as cables and counterweights and all that stuff. And it's, to me, it's just kind of a vanity point for somebody new in town that happens to have their house where the crane's out in front of it, you know, but that doesn't mean they have to look at it. You know, I've seen it my whole life, and you know, everybody I talk to used to revel to come up here and see the crane at work, because it's very important to how they live and what we do here. They might not show the crane in the Better Homes and Gardens version of the cover shot, but it's there. And it should be there. Thank you. And I just want to know what could be done to go forward with being able to reverse that requirement for them.
I would think the applicant would wanna, because that's part of their contract they have with the city, so when that gets renewed, if that's an issue with them, they can bring it up.
We worked pretty diligently with them and I thought that we came to an agreement that they were happy. So,
Well, I know they're trying to accommodate too, and, you know, they don't wanna be penalized or
Right.
say you can't dock here now and you can't dock there now. You know, they've been pushed around obviously with they need to do it. Even, you know, the.
just a good recollection, David, is that contract came to be because we had a lot of residents come out against the city, dock and dredge using the city property. And so we came to an agreement that was pretty digestible by most people. So I think it was a fair agreement, to let them use it, and even some of the conditions that we had public pushback on. So that's why we get there. I think JB's right. If Wallstrom, if Dock and Dredge wants to renegotiate that contract, when it's time to renegotiate, they can ask for that term and the Harbor Commission will consider it. So
Is that an annual contract?
oh no, it's.
No, I
it's-
think we
it's 3 or 5
extended it
years.
for 3, yeah, maybe 3 more years.
Yeah. I'd have to double check exactly.
Well, cause I had the conversation with them and they, you know, they aren't really happy about it, but they just wanna accommodate and they don't wanna create ripples and waves. So, you know, I just mentioned to Andy that, you know, I would try to get a petition together because there's many people that I've talked to that didn't even know that happened and they're like, really? That's kind of silly. So anyway, thanks for your.
You bet.
You know, Keith,
Any other comments from the floor? Okay, moving on to the first item of old business in your packet. Are 2 different copies of the bylaws. One of them, I think, has changes that Victor, or we talked about that Victor put in here. Well, Victor, you want to talk about this? I think it relates to the number of forums.
yeah, so, this was discussed probably back in spring, Jim, or early summer. You've been busy, but Jim and I finally got around to getting the edited bylaws. And one of the things was we talked about the definition of a quorum in Article 4, Section 1 was that would include 6 members, because we have 10 members that serve on the Harbor Commission. We had a discussion whether or not we should lower or raise that number of Harbor Commissioners. We kept that at 10, and then we decided to increase the quorum to 6, which is a majority of those in attendance. And so you see that for Section 1 and Section 5, for how many members are needed to be a quorum and to vote. And I think that was the only areas.
Section 5 of that, it says didn't we add a concurring vote of 6? Did you add that?
Yes, so Section 5 says a concurring vote of 6 members of the commission.
Yes, Section 5, yeah.
Section 5.
Yeah, that voting, yeah. So there's 2 spots under
There's 2
one
spots,
board.
And page
And then
3,
Karen asked about Article 3. I think that would be the first place that came up about the chair and vice chair.
Well, Lisa, why don't we stick with the
Okay.
quorum thing first, and we'll get to that. That's a good suggestion too. The only concern I have, and I don't think it's a stopper, is that if we have less than a quorum, if we only had 8 members here, because the way I read this, we'd have to have 6 yeses to get any business capacity.
Or if you only have 6 people show up, everybody has
Everybody
to
has to.
agree.
And is everybody comfortable? Because we often have 1 or 2 people not here.
Some different boards have, I don't know if all the bylaws are the same, and I think the city charter has also different provisions for city council on when a quorum of, if a majority of the quorum is necessary or a majority of the council. I don't think there's 100% consistency.
We've
So
had
that's
the
up to,
same
I think
questions
that's up
if
to the
there was
Harbor.
only 5. Same questions would be relevant if the number was 5 instead of 6.
Right, but it's in 1 more.
One issue is if there are 8 people here, but someone has to recuse themselves for whatever reason. So that's a no vote, or is that just not a vote at all?
If you recuse, it's no vote.
Yeah.
It's essentially an abstain, yeah.
So go ahead.
My concern with it is we do in the dead of winter, a lot of people are gone. So getting six of us to show up in February if we needed to be a challenge. And over the years, I think, especially because we don't meet between October and May, generally speaking, we have difficulty getting things done sometimes, and this doesn't help that. For example, part of our struggle with getting the harbor master thing done is we didn't get the bids out as early as we wanted, so we didn't get as many bids back, and that having to get 6 people together in the off season, I think we just make that a little harder. Not a deal breaker. I'm not necessarily against making the change, but I do think it's make it a little more difficult for us to do our job.
In the past, it was 5, correct? And the way it worked is it was a majority of then the quorum, right? For votes,
No,
It was 5.
we still,
5 out of 5.
we still had to get 5. If we had 7 people here, we had to get 5 yeses if we wanted to, or 5 no's, depending on what you're voting.
It's always, yeah, so it was 5 for a quorum and 5 for a motion to pass.
Yeah.
And so now it would be 6 for a quorum and 6 for a motion to pass.
Because we have the 10.
But at the same time, the philosophy for going that way too is if you need the majority of the quorum, then that's the majority of 6, that's 4 people, that's not your whole board agreeing to something. So that was the reasoning for it. What did the other 6 people think? And well, they didn't make the meeting, so no vote, but at the same time is you're making an action when maybe not the whole board agrees with that action. So though there's 2 different, I agree with, I mean, there's no, but I mean, we generally go with agreeing vote of the quorum.
Right, and then we think if we had 10 and it was 5 and 5,
It's down the middle.
right? So I thought that was why we had 6 and 10 or,
Well, the other solution is to not have as many people on the commission. And I don't think that was palatable to anybody to use those numbers. So I'd be willing to take a swing at this. We can change our bylaws if we find out it doesn't work down the road, obviously. And see what happens.
Maybe have we had problems with this in the past, really?
We've been close. You know, we've been, as Bill says, we've been close to have 5 for one to have a meeting. So this might make it a little tougher to do, but I don't know that. So
We
let's
have a contingency if there's an emergency meeting in February, we can do a Zoom meeting.
City doesn't allow that.
No, it's not, the state doesn't allow it. The state doesn't allow remote meetings.
Victor, we're an advisory board though versus an administrative or whatever. So does that make a difference?
Yeah, well, no, because even though you're an advisory board, you're an advisory to council, and the Harbor Commission is in the city code. So that's the board is the foundation and the goals and the purpose of the board is in the city code. So violating the bylaws, which are called for in the city code, could be a violation of the city code, and we wouldn't want to go down that path. So if you, yeah, so even though you're advisory, you're still official city board per city code.
Any other comments? Well, for the sake of coming to a decision on this, I'll make a motion that we raise the number of members to 6 that shall be necessary to take any action in a meeting. And see if it gets the support and then we'll go from there.
Support.
So motion's been made and supported that we would increase from 5 to 6 members of the commission that shall be necessary to take any action. Any further discussion on this? So Victor, why don't you do a roll call vote?
Sure. Greg Fisher,
Yes.
Chip Evers,
Yes.
Bill Brown,
Yes.
Bill McCullough,
No,
Karen Mahalik. Lisa Nichol,
yeah.
Kathy Macho,
Yes.
Jim Bartlett,
I don't want Bill to be lonely. I go yes.
and John Baker, yes.
Okay, motion carries. And then Lisa, you were gonna bring up the chairman to chair?
Yeah, I
Because
think,
we're-
Karen just wrote a note from Vietnam. And asked if, and I'm assuming, I was trying to look all through to see how many there were, but I know in Article 3, Section 6, it does say chairmanship and vice chairmanship. So that would be 2 spots of chair and vice chair. But I'd have to kind of look around through the whole 5, because I see another.
Well, I
one.
could do a control find.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
in the thing.
Yeah, I see like a couple more, so. Just if we could
Does anybody have
change
a
that,
problem with
does anybody have a
I
problem
move
with
that
that?
we, go to the gender neutral,
To be more inclusive.
word, whatever it is.
Gender.
Yeah, chair. I think that was a chair and vice chair.
Yes.
Right. Can we do that by affirmation? I mean, that's a grammatical change. I don't think we need a motion.
Second.
Who's second that?
Steve, Pat, yeah, is everybody okay with that?
Yes.
All right, great. Anything else in the bylaws? I didn't see anything else to change.
They did mention that it's the wrong name for the signature, so we'll just get that.
Yeah.
changed.
And a
Okay,
date, there's a
Yeah,
date at the,
2018, yeah. We'll get that.
next item is the Fort Park driveway engineered drawings. Last meeting, we asked the city, asked Benchmark to come up with a drawing of the increased width we were looking for down there. And in your packet, they've drawn out what looks to be a 9-foot increase in there. There are some costs on the opposite side of the page. I think with this,
So there's, here's the drawing on the screen.
and I like it,
Yeah, they fixed the radius on the east side.
both sides.
Yeah.
I have one question. This is a cost estimate for the actual work. What was the cost for Benchmark to provide the information? Was there any? Or was it?
There would have been a cost, but Lucas told me it was a couple hours of work, so I don't have the bill yet from them.
You know, less than 300.
It's,
Yeah,
Relatively
the
small.
council Matt said no more than 5.
it was relatively easy for them to do.
And then Victor, on top of that, amount that Benchmark had, then do we have the Lucas one for the 2,000? For
Yeah,
the,
that is separate.
okay, that's what I was wondering, okay.
So the $2,000 to relocate.
The
Electric lines and
irrigation, yeah, okay.
Victor, what do you need from us?
I mean, this council took your recommendation, and I guess it would just be an approval to go forward. We looked out to get quotes, get a couple quotes. Doesn't need to go out to bid per se, but we'll get a couple quotes from companies to see if
You
you
need a motion for that?
Yeah, I would just, the motion would be good.
Anybody interested in maybe one?
I'll make a motion
Or
to
item?
approve it for the 9 feet, yeah, for the 9 feet, correct?
Yeah, it's 9 feet, yeah.
For the drawing submitted by Benchmark today.
Right.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Support.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded, and they're gonna arm wrestle. See,
I heard
I would
JT
make sure
first.
you use his left arm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Same for opposed. Good work, Victor, thank you. DNR reservation system agreement discussion. In your packet was actually the original contract that we looked at that had a number of items that we all didn't like, which were summarized in the July memo that I wrote when we talked about this. So talking to Victor about that, we decided to have Raymer come up with an addendum that deals with primarily the 4 things that we talked about at that meeting, which were a limit of 12 to the slips, transient slips being involved. And while we have 17 transient slips at the marina, don't forget that we have wall space on the east and west side of the 2 long docks. So we actually have closer to 40 plus spaces in there when you add that all together. So it's not like we're giving away a ton of real estate to the state of Michigan. The contract term drops from 20 years as specified down to 3 with no penalty if we want to go down. Mike has spent some time talking to the state, and maybe you want to run through that, but there is a way to have us accommodate our unlimited stay prior to June 28th and after August 15th.
We can either continue to use our current system and just advise the central reservation system and the DNR of those slips are going to be used for events like we can do unlimited stay through our system, I guess, for lack of a better word. And we can also advise the state if we're going to use any of the slips that are dedicated to transient reservation slips, we have to advise the CRS of any of those slips that are booked on a long-term basis to the 5th of July. Or folks can make a 7 or 14-day reservation with the state, and then we can either extend at the end of their stay using our system, or they can extend through just book multiple stays until the 5th of July. And the same thing applies to after August 15th, as we talked about the other day. We can also block out regatta dates. We can block out rendezvous. And any dates that we use as special events, we still advise the CRS of and let the DNR know as well. But they have no issue with our using that broadside space, which is really important to us for regatta time for sure. So there are ways the state can accommodate, and I think we can draft something with Jim to put that in legalese. And it's already been talked over and approved by Lene Dawson, who seems to be the contact person for the system. So I think we're in good shape there.
But we need it in writing.
It will be in writing, yes. Yep.
So I guess this is an informative thing because we don't have the actual contract in front of us.
Right, because that's the part that, you know, Karen had written me a note about the 75%. I said, no, that's not right. That's not what we discussed. We only discussed the 12.
Yeah.
So
And
I
that's
said,
why-
it's just not updated in here.
That 75% was at one point all the total slips that we had available.
Or was it only, it says of transient slips, so that would have been out of the 44, which would have made it 33 slips we would have had.
Right, but
And
they've
that's why
also,
we spent some time talking.
right,
Right,
they've allowed us to dedicate that broadside space to our own use and our own
Right, okay.
designation, yeah.
Well, JB, I think you can approach this 2 ways if you want. You can have us come back with a written contract, or you can have us take a vote to see it, to approve or recommend the contract with the addendum as described. But if that doesn't work out, we can come back to that. And we would take it to the council for review and final approval.
If we have to review it again, this is gonna have to be done. When Raymer gets his work done, so that's November or December. And the goal would be to get this to the state no later than the end of the year, if not a little sooner, so we've got time to get this thing launched right. So I'm comfortable asking staff to incorporate the items that we've all been discussing and sent along to council. And then having Raymer come up with an addendum that is either merged into or becomes a part of this document, so that we've got it in black and white. And if Jim's comfortable with that, then if he says we need to have it in this document, then we need to get it in the document.
And I'll make sure to run it by just in case, you know, because I think that would move it along if that's, yeah, so.
Is everybody comfortable with that approach?
yeah.
Yeah, I have a couple questions.
By the way, Jim,
I think, first of all, is it clear that they talk about the fees being, transient fee, a reservation fee, a credit card
Right.
processing fee? Are the fees gonna add up to be so much it doesn't? Do we know what those fees are?
Yeah,
yes,
what is the reservation fee? What's an idea of how much you have to?
be similar to the camp.
The reservation fee to the customer?
Yeah,
I want to say,
So, okay, all I care about is what's coming to us.
yeah.
nothing
so-
changes coming up.
Okay, so if it's like $70, is it to the customer, it's 70 plus plus plus?
Yes,
It's not 70 minus to us, okay?
if our dock rate is $70, city gets $70. That's
Okay.
not how it used to be, but that's the way it is now. They
Okay,
will pay, I think it's a $5 or $10 reservation fee that they don't
Okay.
get back if they cancel.
right,
Right,
okay,
And there's restrictions as to when they can get that money back based on when they say, Michael, that they're not coming.
Hours.
Those are typical things that you see.
okay. And then if we get it actually done by the end of the year, talks in here about, standard length of time to actually set it up 8 to 12 weeks. So then we're talking about March for a June reservation.
When we open next year.
Okay,
We
so
can get this to
everybody
them.
understands the timing and all.
We
We're
can
not-
get this to them, and Mike will confirm this, but by the end of the year, everything they've told that I've heard is that we'll be all set for next year.
They need 8 to 12 weeks to put the system in
Right.
place. And they already have, I've already sent them the information that they need to install this in the CRS. As far as the number of slips, there are several other things that they needed information on, but they already have that information, so they're ready to plug it in.
and Mike, for the training, we don't have to pay anything
Nope.
for that, so we don't have to pay anything to get this set up.
No equipment costs, no setup costs, training costs, and as long as we keep it for 3 years. Bail out before that, then we
Yeah,
have to
yeah,
pay it.
If everything works out well, I imagine we can get a November approval in council. And then,
And then we got it to them in plenty of time.
And for the locals, you know, wanting to get a slip and everything, they're not gonna have to go through the reservation system.
If they want to use a 60-foot slip or a couple of our 45s,
Okay.
but we're fortunate in that we still have that broadside space to use. And we
Okay.
have several other slips in both the east dock and then right out in front of the marina that we can use for transient board, local transients as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was one of the concerns too, okay.
I don't think they're gonna see much of an impact.
Yeah.
And that was the part of the purpose.
Right, right.
The cancellation for, is that it has to be mutually agreed upon.
Mhm.
What if they say no? I mean,
That's a good question.
So the agreement, as it says here, is for 3 years. But yeah, so
it
that
has to be
says,
canceled 60 days in advance of that, and it has to be mutually agreed upon. And it's in writing.
Mhm.
So,
So if we don't meet the terms of the contract, the state will not agree to. Just like that. We can't just say we'd like out without following the terms of the contract.
but what if we want out and they,
If we want out and we follow the terms of our withdrawal process on you,
Mhm.
they can't stop. They can only stop us if we don't follow the terms of the withdrawal.
okay, I don't read that.
That's so. But we should ask.
and Jim, we'll have Jim review that section. Yeah, if I read it as a minimum 3-year agreement. But I see where Sharon's perspective.
I read that the first time. But let's find out for sure.
And they remit the funds to us every other week, right? Every 2 weeks?
Pardon me?
They remit funds to us every 2 weeks?
Yes. Much quicker than they have in the past. It used to be up to 3 months to get any money back from the state. Their whole take, or this woman that I've been talking to quite a bit, their whole take on this is they don't want to tell us how to run our business. They just want to help us run our business more efficient. And we've been over this to be able to guarantee voters that they have a spot in Harbor Springs will be vitally important to our success, I think, without a doubt.
Any other questions? Better clear path forward here. And let's move on to,
Sorry, one more question.
no, where are
So
we?
we don't need to have an approval from us. What we're saying is we'll take this plus whatever Jim suggests. And we're good with that. I am, but that's all, you know.
We haven't changed anything we sent to council.
Okay.
The only thing that's gonna happen is put it into the contract with the state, which I thought is what was happening.
So
So is the state gonna be receptive to us changing things?
They've already agreed to it on the phone, Rick. And in our talks with them prior to us talking about this summer, but it never got to this.
They agreed to it also in an email, I think, they said
In
they,
an email as well.
yeah, so.
We
We
need-
just need it in the contract form and signed. So-
Yes.
So we'll get Jim to put it as an addendum. I think that'll work just fine for the state and us. And then, yeah. But I'll have him review those other terms. He'll review the whole contract.
So do we need to approve? Oh, that's what.
we already sent it.
If you want to recommend council move forward as discussed here, based on Jim Raymer's review and.
That's fine too, just.
They'll expedite the process.
Yeah,
I think the council would want that.
Yeah.
I would think the
so.
council would want that.
I think we would.
Okay.
Yeah, agree.
Otherwise, it's just
Take
me.
that whole thing off.
I move. Yeah.
Motion's been made that we,
Recommend approval of the DNR reservation system agreement to council with the addendum with the points discussed and laid out at the July meeting, as well as the review by city attorney Jim Raymer.
motion's been made, seconded, any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Great. Blessing is a fleet.
Hi. My name is Kristen Baylock. I'm still the executive director of the Harbor Springs Area Historical Society. I'm just here, as we are each year, happy to report that last year was a success. I reported that to you at your July meeting, and to give you some insight onto 2025 plus fleet events, which should look similar to 2024. I've outlined it in the packet. I think that was included in your packet. If it wasn't, I'm sorry, I didn't bring copies for everyone. Didn't email it, but I'm not sure. Did it get in the packet? No, it didn't. Sorry, I should check. Okay, let me give you a summary, and I can email this to you to help with your meeting minutes. It's the same format that I sent it in previous years, so just the dates were changed. So we will be doing the Sunset Cruise on June 25th. And that will be in the evening, departing Harbor Springs at 8 p.m. June 26th is the boat parade, the Blessing of the Fleet boat parade, with parade viewing on the city pier. We're working again with the Little Traverse Ferry, Harbor Princess, the bigger boat. And at this time, we are looking to work with their boarding and disembarking from the boathouse, but I don't have confirmation on that, so that's not something that is included in the packet. And I know in the past we've checked into working with Chris, the captain, if there was enough depth for him to come in to the ferry dock if we needed to use that for our boarding for the both the Sunset Cruise and the parade cruise. We did get on and off there for the Sunset Cruise last year. However, we used the boathouse for the parade cruise. So none of those are things that change from 2024. Are there any questions, concerns? I definitely will have more details ongoing as I get confirmation if we are going to use private space to let you know. Otherwise, I'd be working with Michael for the city dock where the ferry currently comes in. Questions, concerns?
I did run into Ellen at the grocery store. She's waiting to talk to you about the boathouse.
Oh, you did?
She did smile.
And I saw her after we talked, but I didn't want to pounce.
Yeah.
I like to set up
Yes, I sort of
meetings.
did.
I don't catch her off guard. I'll catch her in her desk. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So, they've worked great with us, and, it's just nice to, it's easier to channel the crowd on the private property, if I'm being honest, versus the city property. And I know it opens up the city property. So, it's just a matter of if the boathouse welcomes us back to do that this year, you know, if that was disturbance to them or not. It certainly didn't seem so from my perception or Ellen, but we have to check.
How many people would be aboard the Princess?
It does hold 149 people. We had about 90 people on it in 2024.
And so they would all be trying to park at Fort Park?
No, parking has not, so, when the Isle Royal Queen was here, they had similar capacity and they did not park at Wallstrom. So I have not taken a single phone call about parking issues. So people come early enough or somehow are prepared. They certainly didn't park at the boathouse. But I mean, no different than the spectators who might park there and walk down to the pier. So yes, that's possible.
Just a question.
But I haven't taken any. We definitely cover that quite well in our marketing materials. As soon as they register, they get an automatic generated email that lets them know to come early, because of course we don't want them to miss the boat, and lets them know we give them the areas of the community parking space. So we try to direct them to community parking.
And I'd have a go are we confident that the ferry dock is good because that's a much larger boat than?
No. I was gonna say that, that's a lot of at Fort Park.
So he came in there.
I understand. He did,
Okay,
But
okay,
if it's windy like it was Saturday, that could be a problem.
okay.
Something to think about when you're talking.
Is that something, I mean, I guess that's something that I would hope that Chris himself, the captain, understands and knows, and that he and I can communicate in detail on that. So what I hear you all saying is that there's better options.
I'd find Ellen in the produce section.
Okay. Okay. That is my first choice, but I'm not commit to that here until I.
Would flotation dockage be willing to give us some sort of a, here's the design constraints on that thing?
It changes with the wind load. If it's
Right, but
flat, they're fine. So,
Okay.
but that is a lot of boat bills, right? For that.
Understood.
I don't think we had any
He
problems
does too.
with the event. Seemed to run fine.
So,
I applaud you guys are this far ahead of the curve for being here in October, talking about it. That's great.
yeah,
So-
details.
Oh,
So
sure.
our wish is your wish, as you're saying, we're looking for the best place to put, you know, people on and off. We're looking for the best experience on the water and off the water. And, you know, safety is paramount. We did our boat registration revenue continues to increase. And what that means for us for numbers is that there's that many more people registering in advance, which really does help us have a vision of how many boats will be on the water. So we try to encourage people, if they register with us in advance for $25 or more, we have little levels. We give them a raffle ticket, is sort of just incentive to give us their name, their contact information, so that we can send them a map of the harbor and some of the rules and regulations of the harbor in the event for safety. And so we are seeing that number increase, which shows that people are paying attention, and, you know, it's working for us to get more pre-registration each year.
Great.
So I'll be back again whenever your next meeting is, just to answer questions and continue to give them.
Appreciate it. Any other questions for Kristen?
No.
Great, thank you.
You.
Setting the rates for next year, both transient and seasonal. I passed out a couple of sheets that you just had a chance to look at. The first one here is a comparison from year to year. And the very fine print at the bottom, which I can't believe I can read.
Oh.
It is important that you, the percentages, you also have to factor in what we increased, especially with seasonal stuff. So, but going the right direction, which is good. So
Jim, do you traditionally, recommend increases every year to kind of keep pace with inflation, or is it a couple of years off and then a catch up?
Well, from my perspective, I believe you have to account for inflation or else we're going backwards on this, without a doubt. And you've heard me say that to stable before, especially with the seasonal doctors. And mortgage, those got to go together in my mind. The daily fees or transient fees that get charged at the dock. We have some more constraints on us. The state makes us live with one of about 10 different categories that are in the backside of one of the pages on here. And again, this year, for example, the state did not raise these rates. These are the same numbers that we saw last year. I don't think they raised them last year, did they?
They didn't, they haven't raised the rates in 3 years
So,
now.
my perspective, state hasn't allowed us to raise those rates for 3 years. So what I'm going to suggest today, what everybody else wants to do is fine. We're currently at J or I, and I think we need to go to J, so we start keeping up with inflation, which is too. So we have to charge a minimum on seasonal dockage. And I think we've got some data here that shows you what the state minimums are. In the highest category for a 30-footer, that's $3,300. We are currently charging $5,100 for a 30-footer. So we're well
We're way
above
above.
that number. We're also well above any other public marina in our neighborhood by a factor of 40% or so. So we certainly meet the state stuff there, and we can't charge more than whatever category we select on the transients rates for the daily stuff. and we're currently at the I. We're at the I category right now.
On
And
the
that's,
seasonal rates, I mean, on the seasonal, how long is the waiting list?
that's huge.
222 names, and the next person we offered a spot signed up with us in 2003.
Yeah, okay. Wow, I can't even do the math.
That's like, that's
incredible.
better, because I waited
Better.
25 years for my slip, so we're improving.
Okay, okay, I mean, the point is, we're not, it's not a demand thing.
Demand is
Yeah, okay.
is goofy, but you will find names on our list, it's the same as Wallstrom's, it's the same as Irish's, it's the same as City of Petoskey. So you gotta, and I would guess 10% of those names on there may not even be with us, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Every 5 years or so, we kind of go through there and ask for another $25. We make sure you're alive, we've got the right addresses. And maybe it's time we do that, because we haven't done that in a few years.
We haven't done that, I hate to say this, since 2007,
I think maybe that's.
and that was only $10 at that time.
Yeah, it wasn't the money, it was to make sure we're missing something. So we should probably do that. But I think the point is, we're in
It's not a
position
supply
where
demand
we're
thing. No.
25, 30 years.
And I mean, is it are these rates comparable to Wallstrom's or Irish's?
No, they're a little under.
Okay.
For example, a 30-foot boat in Wallstrom's. Irish's is actually the more expensive. I want to say they're a little over 6,000. But we've had several committees over the years look at those relationships. It's felt that we need to be higher than the rest of the public marinas because we're Harbor Springs. But less than the private marinas because we don't offer the parking, number one. Those guys all have parking in their lots. We don't offer the security because the public go up and down both of our docks where seasonal boats are, and it's not like it is at the boat shop or at Wallstrom Marine. And both of those places have somebody you can call and have a mechanic walk out your boat and help fix it right off the bat, and it doesn't work that way. So there's some reason why we should be a little less.
I like those reasons. I think we should clean up the list though. It's, yeah.
Sure, if you look on the seasonal rate list for Petoskey is around number 2. And as you said, we're not even on that list. We're like between $3,000 and $5,000 off. I mean, we're way up there.
Yeah.
In transient world, we're somewhere else. Petoskey's around the H, we're at the I. You know, when I look at something like a 40-foot boat, it's like $1.90 a foot, and you'd go up to $205. My only hope was I was hoping that we would have the laundry facility to give that extra push to make that extra money that we're gonna ask to move up to J or something. And we'll see what happens. But yeah, we're in that higher end of the transient.
Maybe like Greg did, you want to start tackling these one by one? You want to start tackling them one by one?
Well, I've got to wait to see if there are other questions or comments.
I throw out sort of an answer to Greg's question. I went through and read through most of the minutes that are on the city website, which takes a little while. Just search for the word rate and keep going. There have been years where we've increased it rather dramatically. At the beginning of this, like in the early 20s, we were going up 5-8% because everything was going up. We went for a couple of years after the housing crash with no change in the rates. And there have been occasions where we have not raised the dock and the mooring at the same rate, because mooring has very little overhead, very little impact, and is part of our public trust, make it available to the common man sort of a thing, as opposed to we could profit maximize higher than what we do. Also, there's been various times where we've discussed the relationship with the other commercial marinas, and typically consensus has been something 75-80% of what the nicer places are charging is about where we want it to be. So that's just a little historical perspective on what we've done over the years.
One lesson we learned in 08, 09, and 10, when, as Bill pointed out, we didn't raise fees during the little bit of the economic crash in there. The two private marinas actually had open slips in 09 and 10 and 11. for the city did not. And to me, that's an example of what happens if you get too greedy. So there's a balance I think we have to strike in that, and so far we managed to walk that line without penalty to the city or the taxpayers.
But did we not have any openings because there weren't any available? It wasn't an economic issue. If you've got 200 and some people on the waiting list, maybe it's nice to be a nice guy.
My point is that that waiting list is not what you think it is.
No.
Because if somebody on our waiting list knew that there was a slip in Irish's and they were actively soliciting people who weren't their customers so they could sell that dock space, they couldn't fill it. They had empty spots. So I think you gotta use common sense in this thing and not be greedy. To me, it's about, as Bill says, we can profit maximize this, but I think you have to have common
You ever
sense.
index it off of inflation so that we don't have to have this discussion, meaning like 50% of inflation or whatever, pick a form. And then there's not a lot of catch up. It kind of goes along with inflation and
in recent years, we've used that as a starting point for the conversation.
Right.
And actually, there's some debate among some of us as to the actual inflation number, because it depends on which one you look at. You know, the
Right.
CPI, and then there are other measures that are probably more appropriate for what we're dealing with, because we're not doing eggs and gasoline.
And a school board, we used to get into the discussion every year about tuition increase. It would get emotional and it would get long, and we tried to make it formulaic, so
It
that,
had some trauma there.
yeah, there was some trauma.
And I think last year we did cost of living, and I think we picked the number out of like 3.3 or 3 or whatever.
We found a common ground.
We just,
Got a few
yeah, we
numbers.
started looking it up, if I remember right.
I agree, this is not a profit maximization.
No.
I think we're not in for that. I agree with that.
I think we've proven that our rates are already really high for the type of business. that we are. So it's better where we go from. And I'm an inflation, but I never did it set and lift ticket stuff. I always want, in case we did something new or we had a problem, I always wanted to be able to not be held to that number.
Right.
So,
I got it.
so does anybody, I'd be happy to throw something out and get started. Or if somebody else can, I don't want to be driving the bus all the time.
I'll throw something out. According to the Atlanta Federal Reserve Bank, the sticky inflation rate average over the last 12 months is 4.1%. And I think we're working hard to come up with the money we need to do some of the projects that we're looking to do. The building and things like that, we seem to be struggling with. And I think that over the course of the last few years, some of the pandemic induced inflation, we didn't really keep up with. So I'd say 4.5 starting.
So a motion has been made to increase seasonal dock slips and seasonal moorings built.
Yeah. Yeah, I would do it across the board.
At 4.5%.
Is that in keeping with you mentioned it yourself, we want to be with 75%. If it's 4%, that means you raise it 3%.
The 75% number I threw out was
Absolutely a ballpark.
Was-
Really is the
was-
middle of any of this
was-
discussion.
We're just talking about.
But that was 75% of what Irish's charges and Wallstrom charges, not what the bank.
Do we know what Wallstrom and Irish are going to
They
charge?
haven't posted this year.
They haven't put that on.
And that's part of the problem.
I couldn't find it on either of their websites.
Like,
Yes.
Pay the number and.
Where are you gonna go?
There's a motion on the floor and it hasn't received a second.
I don't like it.
And that's not a second.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded, and the motion is to raise by 4.5% the seasonal dock slips and the seasonal mooring rates. Any further discussion?
Yeah, last year, we raised the rates 3%, we said. Okay, inflation is not as high this year as it was last year. So
You
to
can
me,
reflect that.
4% is, might be hard to,
You can reflect that in how you respond to the roll call vote we're gonna do right now.
okay, that's fine.
Victor, would you please do a roll call vote?
Yeah, Kathy Macho,
No.
Lisa Nichol,
No,
John Baker. No. Bill McCullough.
No,
wait a minute.
It's hard if you're gonna.
Bill Brown,
No.
Sharon Mahalik.
No.
Chip Everest.
Yes,
Attaboy.
have a backbone.
Yes,
You want to-
and Jim Bright.
No.
That motion failed to, I mean, sorry, to
You can't any-
to the seven.
Any traction, nothing.
Yes.
All right, another motion.
Nobody question,
We're doing business, Dave.
well, it's concerning the business.
Public comments at the end of the meeting. So, somebody else want to make a motion?
Make a motion.
no, I'm licking my wounds here.
I think the feeling from a lot of people that I talked to about the rates last year was ouch. This, yes, is a resort community, but it's also a retirement community. And so I think, especially since inflation is lower, that we should be cognizant of it, and we don't have a new harbor master building. So I will make a motion that we raise it 2%.
Seasonal dock and seasonal moorings.
Yes.
Motion's been made that we raise the fees for those two items 2%. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Victor, would you do a roll call vote, please?
Yes. Bill McCullough,
No,
Greg Fisher,
No,
Chip Everest,
No.
Bill Brown,
No.
Sharon Mahalik,
Yes.
Lisa Nichol,
Yes.
Kathy Macho,
Yes.
John Baker.
No.
And Jim Bartlett.
No.
So that failed
Okay.
3-6.
Did I say we leave it?
So
motion to split the difference, 3 1/4.
No.
I would support that. Motion's been made. It's recorded.
Catch up.
Yeah.
That's 3.25%.
What's the inflation rate?
3.2.
I think it's around, I think it's around 3.
Depends on what you're paying. If you're paying durables, it's gonna be different than others.
Motion's been made at 3 1/4 and it's been seconded. Any further discussion?
Wait, did you second that?
Yes. Victor, fire away, round 3.
Kathy Macho,
No.
Lisa Nichol,
Say no.
John Baker,
Yes.
Sharon Mahalik,
No.
McCullough,
yes,
Greg Fisher,
Yes.
Chip Everest,
Yes.
Bill Brown,
Yes.
and Jim Bartlett.
Yes,
That's 6. The motion passes 6-3.
great.
So 3.5, is that the number?
3.5.
I don't,
Split the baby. Yeah.
That's for seasonal docks and seasonal moorings.
right. Next item, and that was a good discussion, everybody, so that's the right way to look at it. Launch ramp permits. You know, in the past, this has been a bit of a political football, especially the daily fee, but there's been significant effort and feedback from council in past years to keep it reasonable, because of the reasons that Bill just talked about at the $5 rate. And Michael, that $5 rate is pretty well consistent.
It's pretty much across the board of everybody around us.
Yes.
It's not, I thought it wasn't negotiable. I thought it was the state control.
The state says it.
The state does set that rate at 5.
But I'm talking about the seasonal resident and the seasonal.
Oh, yes.
Oh.
So.
I move no change. It doesn't move the needle at all.
No, the reality.
It's
is-
all about perception.
Right.
Motion's been made
I
to
was
leave the
just-
rates the same.
I second.
Is there a second? Lisa
I'll
second.
second that.
Motion's been made and there's been a second. Any further discussion?
I guess my only question was, never mind. It's not that big a deal. You're right, it's not that big a deal.
discussion, we're spending 10 or 11,000.
That's the other thing I'm thinking.
Is that
We're
Cover
making
that?
14,000.
Thank
We made
you.
14,000.
Seasonal rate, $8,340.
And daily.
And daily was
14,000.
64.51.
net? Not gross.
Yes.
I guess the question is, what's
That's
our,
growth. Net income.
what's our total revenue from seasonal resident, seasonal non-resident? Total revenue, 8,000?
Seasonal rent fees,
Yeah.
Seasonal resident and seasonal non-resident launch fees, what's our total?
on-prem seasonals are 83.40 and daily launch rent fees are 64.51 and totals to just short of $15,000.
So take out the daily, so that's 6,340 is our total revenue,
83.40
For the
for
daily.
seasonal launch rent.
8340.
Yes,
Yeah.
Okay, so we could triple the amount and not even come close to our $20,000 CapEx number. Right? So I mean, my point is, it's all perception.
Right.
And so, I mean, we raise it $10, we're gonna maybe raise another $800. I mean, it just, the numbers are immaterial.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, we don't need.
I think it's nice to have a no change on something where it's available to everybody.
Makes sense. And we have a motion on the floor for no change. It's been supported.
Yes.
Any further discussion? Victor, you want to roll through us one more time?
Sherry Mahalik,
Yes.
Bill McCullough,
Yes.
Jim Bartlett,
Yes.
Bill Brown,
Yes.
Greg Fisher,
No.
Chip Evers,
Yes.
John Baker,
Yes.
Kathy Macho,
Yes.
Lisa Nichol.
Yes.
I think I got it out, right? Did I miss anyone?
Yep.
All right, 8-1, that motion back.
Finally, Management Moorings. Michael, how, our income on that was pretty reasonable, wasn't it? Well, $8,700.
Yep.
You know, I always look at this, you're out on a hook, you gotta use a dinghy. I got a 30-foot boat out there, it would have cost me $60 at the dock, we're charging $30 on a mooring. Can you really go to $40? And, you know, $35, it's not anywhere near as convenient as being on shore. So what makes sense? Is it, anybody bark at those numbers, or
No,
nope.
I just.
when was the last time we raised
It's gotta be at least
a couple of years?
2-3 years, yeah.
It was 3 years.
I think we might have considered that when we did that 8% COVID increase. In whatever year that was, 2 or 3 years ago, yeah, 2020.
That's what we had 16 grand in transit.
Well, to get things moving, I would make a motion to increase both rates, the 200, for the 200 and 300 series by $5 from 30 to 35 and 40 to $45.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Victor?
John Baker,
Yes.
Sherry Mahalik,
Yes.
Lisa Nichol,
Yes.
Jim Bartlett,
Yes.
Kathy Macho,
Yes.
Bill McCullough,
Yes.
Chip Evers,
Yes.
Greg Fisher,
Yes.
and Bill Brown.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Wow.
Whoa, that's.
$5. Earn it.
How's everybody feel about the other numbers on the page? Dinghy storage, kayak storage? I know we've been bumping those up with some regularity in there. And let's not talk about launch permits yet. Let's get the dinghy and kayak storage done first.
What's the backlog on the kayak? For kayak racks?
Waitlist.
42.
42,
Mhm.
down considerably.
We did some cleanup of that.
We did a lot of cleanup on that. We also had 6 folks give up their spots last year, so we filled that right off the list. And I think the same thing's gonna happen again this year. From an aging population standpoint, a lot of folks just can't use those top racks anymore.
Can't get
We
to 'em.
don't have the ability to switch them into a lower racks. We're gonna have some folks give it up.
And with the 16,000 we make, I know Mike said he's got some new end caps and some new material for the racks, so I think that's good. And that's why we didn't raise it last year, because we did we were making quite a bit of money off those, but we needed to do some work on them. So I'm hoping over the winter, we can kind of get them back into good shape, and we're making $16,000.
Well, the fire hose is a donation from the fire department. We're gonna cut that into strips and recarpet those, and then the end caps. I think I ordered close to 300 of those, and they came out to about $135. So,
No, that's,
yeah, that's an easy
Yeah.
deal. Easily
Kind
kind
of
of
small potato.
Well, you're right, they do need some attention.
And that's both locations, both all.
Yep.
On the dinghy storage, I'm not inclined to raise that. We haven't in years, that's because we do take care of that by raising the seasonal moorings. And I don't think we should be charging how the guy gets out to the mooring an unreasonable amount of money. So $50 makes sense to me personally. Kayak and seasonal dinghy storage, I have. And we want to throw the ball out the floor.
did we, oh, I just wanted to ask a question. Did we increase that last year?
I believe we raised the kayak.
No, we
We
didn't
didn't?
last year. I talked you out of it.
Oh,
So we did last year.
Okay, well, I remember discussion, but I couldn't.
I'm a greedy
remember where it
gambler.
ended up.
Exposure down.
I don't think raising it $5 would break the bank. But then I'd like to see it stay that for like maybe every other year, take a look at it. Because we do have quite a few people, and yeah, I mean, we do get quite a bit of money from that. I mean, right there, the dinghy storage pay for our little 9-foot thing. So I say $5 raise since we didn't last year. And if we get our new fire hose and our end caps and we're kind of cleaning them up a little bit, I think that would maybe be fair.
You're talking about both?
The kayak storage.
Oh, the kayak.
Yeah, the
plus
dinghy
$5.
we would leave, yeah,
You know, a 3% raise gets us to $232, yeah.
231.75, yeah.
So
But who's chick?
Yeah,
it makes sense to go from 225 to 230 from that perspective.
We're gonna visit an increase in non-seasonal dinghy storage fees. We're at $225 right now.
I would lump those two together.
Yeah,
Or,
I think.
in fact,
yeah.
I'll make a motion so we can get moved on this. I would move that we move the non-seasonal dinghy storage and the kayak storage fees from 225 to 230.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Once more, Victor.
All right, Greg Fisher,
Yes.
Bill McCullough.
Yeah.
Bill Brown,
Yes.
Bill Bartlett,
Yes.
Chip Evers.
Yes.
Kathy Macho,
yes.
Lisa Nichols,
Yes,
John Baker. Yes. And Sharon Mahalik.
Yes.
Great.
9-0.
Everybody comfortable with no action on the $50 transient, or excuse me, seasonal mooring holder fee? How do we feel on launch permits for commercial city businesses and non-city businesses? I think we've been pretty aggressive on this.
I think we spanked them pretty good last year.
Anybody have a sense of how many boats or how many times they use the ramp? Rough sense? For usage?
No, I know we have Bob Toma down there working there on the weekends,
right.
but,
Yeah, like-
yeah, for the, yeah, I just, we don't keep.
Like how many boats, how many times does Irish use it? I don't know, just curious.
no, I never seen
Well,
it.
they've slowed down because they're not doing that in the late seasons.
Oh, yeah.
But in the past, it's been a ton.
Oh, yeah. What does a ton mean though? Is it
I
like,
mean,
Fillet,
6 a day, 7 a day.
sometimes fillet would be 10 a day.
Yeah.
And then all the customers boats are working. Both the spring launch, fall haul out and here during the season. So there's several a day almost in addition to the valet usually. Not several, but 2 would even be average.
When this came down, there was actually, it turned into a little bit of a political football when we first put this together. Because the commission had one idea, and it wasn't anybody on the council now. But it was felt at the council level that the amount of taxes to large marinas in town, we shouldn't be nicking them on something like this. But eventually we got more traction on this thing. So I don't know politically what it is right now, but I guess I just want you all to know that. So,
We now require each vessel that they're launching to have its own permit too. don't we?
Right.
right.
Yeah, so I think,
Yeah.
yeah, we did that last year, which is pretty fair.
But they have since given up the valet program, Bill. They don't do any valet service anymore. Am I correct?
I think they get
Minimal, right?
Minimal.
Minimal,
They just raised the
minimal
price
usage.
because they didn't have school one.
Right.
That's because they didn't want to do it.
No.
Is what it about.
They couldn't get commercial drivers.
Irish.
So I'm not hearing anything, any motions out on the floor for either one of those two. We comfortable where they are?
Yeah.
All right, we'll move on to the last one, Harbor Master Lot Transient Daily Parking Fees at $10.
I move that it stay the same.
I'll second that.
I didn't know we even charged for that.
We made quite
Because
a
we
bit,
have a limit there of a 4-hour limit,
4-hour limit. Yeah.
and so the daily pass. it's-
Oh, you wanna go more than 4 hours?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And that's only for people who are at the dock.
Yeah, you're
That have a
Joe
contract.
Everett.
Got it.
Oh, okay, this, I'm sorry, explain that again. What's this for?
So this,
Go ahead, Victor. Go ahead.
so the, for transient visitors, at the Harbor Master lot, this is if they want to park there and stay for more than 4 hours, because we do have a 4-hour limit. Right.
Okay.
When you take your car off your boat, you put it in our parking lot, that pays $10 a day.
And the bulk of that business comes to us at regatta time
Okay.
and extended right to the end of the GL52 event that we hosted this year, which
Mm-hmm.
was just a great time. So that generated a lot of income between those 2 weeks.
So Mike, when you have a seasonal slip, then you get a parking pass?
Yep.
Yes.
But doesn't guarantee you a spot, just
Just a
eliminates the
pass
ticket.
if you got a
Take a
spot.
ticket.
Yeah.
Got it.
So we're comfortable with the $10? Everybody's want that? I think our last rate to work on is the 2025 transient rates. We'll be charging at the dock. We're currently at the I category. We have to charge one of these, we can go down. We have need to go up. For the purposes of progress, we make a motion that we increase our transient rates from the I category to the J category for 2025.
Seconded.
It's this.
The J would be for the whole season. It wouldn't be something like Charlevoix does where they have like the pre-season, let's say, and then we have the high season and then we have the postseason. It would just be for the whole, well, they actually have
We
like
do
a
have a
C,
postseason for
C. Well, it's not until October 3rd or whatever, but yeah, they kind of do it a little different. So we would just be at J for
We would
everything
live- we
from
would
May
live at
to, yeah. October 3rd.
So the motion was made and vehemently seconded. Any further discussion?
You know, I remember a
Yes. Yeah.
chairperson in the past saying, that we didn't necessarily want to be the highest. So, especially with, again, not a new harbor master facility or laundry facilities, I think it's a challenge to be the highest.
Well, I will
I
say
don't know who
that,
that guy was. I feel we should move because the state hasn't changed that rate in 3 years.
Okay.
And that's 10% right there in inflation that we've lost. I'm actually a little more on that. So, and if you multiply the $48 of a 25 footer by 10%, you're right at $52. I think we're just staying even by going up to the high because I don't think, or to the J, because I don't think the state's doing their job.
yeah, right now Charlevoix has a J time. It's June 21st through August 18th. Traverse City has a J time. It's June 28th through July 6th. They kind of move up and down too. They
Really?
like, yeah, they actually
Wow.
have different, like I, C,
They
J.
have the holiday rate and they have the holiday. rate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then I was just looking to see if there's there's a J, yeah, the rest are Is, you know, but a lot of them have like D and F, but they move depending on the season. So there are some that are up in the J area for that high time of the season.
Any further discussion?
Victor, would you do a roll call vote, please?
Yes, Bill McCullough,
Aye.
Bill Brown,
Yes.
I or J?
I said yes.
Chip Evers.
Yeah.
Craig Fisher.
Yeah.
Kathy Macho,
Yes.
Lisa Nichol,
Yes.
Kim Mahalik,
Yes.
Oh,
John
we were gonna
Baker,
get-
Yes.
and Jay. Bauer.
Yes,
Get in the shower.
I detected a slight lack of enthusiasm.
Laundry thing in the shower, and it first comes first.
Victor, did we miss anything you need?
Nope.
You and Michael need?
I don't think so. We're good.
Okay, so then, moving on, Michael, master update.
Another short and sweet one. I guess, overall, I'd have to consider this season to be a success, although June was pretty much a washout. And then come the 28th of June, we just started to get really slammed. We were busy right through Labor Day weekend and even beyond that with the good weather we had in September. The Boyne City Group headed our way in June. They've been doing that for as long as I've been here, so it's been 17 years now. That's a great jump start to the season. We saw great numbers in July. Regatta really helped us out a lot. We had 93 boats total registered. We had 37 on our dock, which is a good number. And then it was a real shot in the arm to have the GL52 sticker on. There were 8 of them on the dock for almost 3 weeks, all told, which is a pretty substantial number. And we're making money off those guys with the parking fees as well. That helped out a lot. Staff again did a great job. We had a lot of comments from both transient and seasonal boaters like Sharon and Laura Coors that they really appreciated the staff being accommodating and helpful. Hopefully, Dave, you can attest to that. There you go. And also we got a lot of compliments on the restrooms and the flowers. Everybody loves that. So it's a nice touch. Again, having Bob Tome at the launch ramp, I think Kyle might have already talked about the Marine Patrol, but I have to again give kudos to Bob for the job he did at the launch ramp. He's on it. I've been down there. He's there from 10 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock at night, and he's helping everybody.
He's always out talking to people.
Yep.
And it's really something.
He's such a great ambassador. He's a little bit on the grumpy side, but he's pretty, as Bob knows, everybody knows, he's pretty direct, but I think people appreciate that there's no fooling around down there. You're in the boats on the water and see you.
Well, he's fair and reasonable.
Fair and reasonable, right?
He's equally grumpy.
Yeah, whether he likes it or not.
And the Marine Patrol again did a great job, and now to the most important part. Our seasonal dockage was at 217,961. Our transient dockage from last year was 195,000, and this year transient overall was $219,000. Pretty substantial increase. Seasonal moorage was 78,736. Transient moorage was at 8742. Kayak storage you've already talked about, but that number was $16,000. Non-seasonal dinghies, I had no idea the number was this high, but we were at 4984 for non-seasonal dinghy permits. Launch ramp seasonal is 8340. Launch ramp daily was 6451. Electric sales at 1870. Ice sales at 2895. We weren't quite sure where to put these two numbers, but I'm assuming they would have to go into this bottom line. Charter licenses were at 2680. And their state, we received a grant from the state for our pump out. We had a 75% contribution from the state for the new pump out, which has been awesome. We got 4875 for that. So the bottom line, you're going to want to add another $7,000 to that 565. So we're pretty close to 575 season. Yes, sir.
Why did the seasonal moorage number go down?
Seasonal moorage.
From like 86 to 78.
We had a couple of folks not use their moorings this year, so we actually had to refund that money. And then we also we actually had 5 moorings that we used this year that were already paid for, that we basically doubled up, and that became a seasonal transient. We use those moorings for boats need a boat for the season, like Brent Truman. We had 5 people I can think of, 6 people I can think of that paid that seasonal fee. So
What's that now? You had,
What do you mean?
we had a couple of people that did not use their buoys this season.
they paid us
We
the
They
fee.
paid us the mooring fee, and then we utilized that buoy because there were not gonna be boats on it, which we've been doing for years. You get that year.
Yeah, but you paid by daily rate on it.
Well, they actually paid the seasonal fee, And they were there for literally like a month and a half, and they paid the seasonal fee for that month and a half usage.
I wasn't aware we were offering a seasonal rate on a transient mooring. Or on a mooring.
If they were occupied for that length of time, it actually adds up to more than a transient rate would be, so.
Did we
So why
refund
did
the
it go
money
down?
from the moorage?
We did not, I'm sorry, I misspoke, we did not refund, we refunded Jim Moffett, who unfortunately has to give up his seasonal slip. That's why that seasonal number is down. Partial refund, we offered Jim a 60% refund on his dockage fee.
You'd be careful with.
We don't do it regularly.
No,
I get with Jim, he was sick and,
Yeah.
couldn't get the boat in and a partial probably makes sense.
I still don't get why it went down by so much.
Yeah, that's it.
This went in another bucket.
Pardon
The money went in another bucket, that's.
I think he called the high transient number, I think, was the guys who paid the seasonal rate, but they were transients, is that right?
right,
I mean, if I have a seasonal mooring and I choose not to use it, I have to pay you anyway, right?
right, but that's just for the first year. When you're offered a mooring, or a dock for that matter, you get a year's essentially grace period. You have to have a boat registered with us by February 1st of that next year. If you don't have a boat registered by February 1st, then the contract becomes null and void. We move on to the next person on the wait list. We had 3 moorings show up that way. Yeah, 3 moorings show up that way.
Where people gave up their mooring at the end of February because they didn't send us it into January.
No, I misspoke in the refund of the mooring fee. I misspoke with that. I'll have to look into that number. I apologize for that.
Yeah, it still doesn't explain why it
It's not in the other bucket.
went down by
Yeah, no.
that much.
Oh, I thought.
Well, I think the guys who rented those moorings.
It should have actually gone.
Were in the transient category in this sheet.
Let me look into that for you. And I'll have a better explanation.
If I choose not to use it, I still have to pay, so the number should be going up by
It
inflation.
should have gone up by like
If it's both.
3%.
First, nobody ever uses it. Well, if it's nobody, then it would, yeah.
Well, I would think the transient fees would be all gravy, if I have to pay the seasonal no matter what, even if I don't use it, and then we choose to,
Yeah.
the transits on it, that should all be extra.
Right, that's more money.
And that's how it's been, if you look at the numbers. That's how I know what.
Yeah, that looks like
Well,
an
to me,
accounting issue.
it also seems though that we had a big jump from 2022 to 2023.
Mhm.
But the seasonal mooring,
Yeah.
we have the same number of moorings and we raised the rate by 3%.
Yep.
So it should have gone, and everybody has to pay for their mooring every year,
No matter what.
no
Yeah.
matter whether you
Is
use
there
it
any
or lose it.
prepaying or paying for multiple years?
Pardon me?
No.
Any prepaying or multiple years that
No.
would cause us to accelerate revenue or?
Well, that's a great idea.
Big jump from 2022.
Those are mooring fees.
I think probably you two ought to sit down with Nick and go over that and see what you come up with, because there's something.
Yeah,
on base.
it doesn't make sense.
No, no, right.
Will do.
Because I did notice.
Seasonal dockage, we can't be that easy, because we don't always have the same length boats.
Right. But moorings.
Moorings are all the same.
We don't charge by the length of the boat, we charge by the length of the slip.
The wet, the weight.
Yeah, you could have all season, 30-foot seasons and make less money,
Yeah. 35.
and it does change. Any other questions for Michael? Other than the one on finances? Good job down there, Michael. Thank you, you and your staff.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I thank you for everything.
You're
you
almost
guys do
there.
for me. Appreciate it.
When does the door close?
Someday, baby. No, then I've got some button up stuff to do and then back out to the ski hill, November 4th, yeah.
From my side, thank your crew, they did a fantastic job, very hospitable. Keeping spiders at bay.
Do we get the weasels out of there?
The minks,
I mean, yeah.
yeah, we trapped 5 mink from underneath that transformer.
Those
Five
fibers,
mink.
guy. Wow.
Pardon me.
So cute.
So they got things to hold up.
I wrote the guy a check and said, I don't want to know what you do with them, so.
JB, if I can tag along to Harbor.
It's not a main road, let 'em loose.
Hang on.
Yeah, really quickly, I did have a conversation with the DNR Waterways about grants, because we have a couple big projects. Well, we have one big project and we're looking at other things, and they told me that the conditions the reason why we rejected the grant back in 2019, those conditions are still in there. So definition of facilities would be the entire facilities, and lifetime of facility means 20 years. So there's no change in the contract language. So if you ever want to pursue grants again, DNR Waters Way, just let you know the same condition would be in there, so.
Isn't that interesting that they do it on a reservation system? They adopt it to the market, but they aren't doing it on the other stuff.
I just had one question, JB.
Yes, sir.
Talked about it a couple of meetings ago, the east corner of the launch ramp is dropping. And I thought, I don't know if you got any feedback, Wallstrom fixed it once before. You can see the boats when if they're over too far, you think that there's something wrong with the trailer, but it's not.
So the underwater
The
concrete pier is.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
and it's something to look at before next year.
Yeah.
It'll only get worse.
I'll have Zach and Andy take a look at that.
Yeah, Bill's right. We did pick those up and threw in some gravel and we did it at night too. Any other comments from the table? A long meeting.
Oh, and kudos to Zach and Andy for all the work they did this year with Dock and Dredge. They were right on it in early season too, so, yeah, they do a great job for it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yep. Did you give you got 2025 calendar yet, JB? Can I give us a date for our first meeting?
I haven't gone that far.
Okay, I'm just checking.
Let's see what happens.
It's April, right, or?
David, you had a comment before we adjourn?
Maybe, yeah, I was just wondering, seeing how these other, marinas do different rates for different parts of the season, if that's anything you guys would want to throw around and entertain and to generate more business that people maybe don't come here because it's still a high rate. And, or go somewhere else. I don't know if that has any bearing on anything.
Past years, we haven't seen, we've done some rate reduction things. We're still doing a fall deal
rates,
for
yeah.
smaller boats. But the $20 discount hasn't seemed to drive a $3 million boat into the marina.
Mhm.
So